Hey there, it's Red. Now onto the book haul that's a little bit bigger than I originally thought, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So there's this kind of cool little bookstore near my house, and so they solely sell old library books. They take all these used library books from all the local libraries and they sell them in this store. And it's really cool because it's like less than 5 minutes from my house. And I've never seen anything above $2 there. Like, everything is usually 50 cents to $2. While I was there, I got these two really cool art books. Now, I am a huge fan of art history. I've taken so many art history classes. I absolutely love it. So when I saw these and they're only $2 a piece, I had to have them. I had to. One is The World of Bernini, because Bernini is absolutely one of my favorite Renaissance artists. He built, he didn't build it, but he designed the colonnade. He did a David. I mean, he was a genius. The other one I got is a little bit less specific, but it is 7 Centuries of Art, and this has some of my absolute favorite paintings in this. I just think these are so cool. I love them. The price is amazing. I wasn't going to be able to beat it, and art history books are usually crazy expensive, so I jumped on it. 2 other books that I picked up at this store was The Crucible by Arthur Miller. I've always just liked The Crucible. It's been one of my favorite plays. I remember reading it in high school, and for some reason I never got around to just buying it, so I just decided to go ahead. The last one I picked up from the store was Animal Farm by George Orwell. It's such a quick and tiny read, and I haven't read this book in years. I mean, I basically remember what it was about, but I know I've forgotten a lot of things that happened in this book, and I remember really liking it, so I just decided for 50 cents I'm just going to go ahead and get it. So next are a couple of books that I got from a Barnes & Noble clearance sale. One was this absolutely cool and beautiful edition of Edgar Allan Poe's work. Now, I have a paperback version of like complete Edgar Allan Poe work, but I just thought this one was so cool, and it was like $4, and I needed this on my shelf and in my life. This one cost me also $4 or $3 and change, something like that. And this is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. It doesn't have all of his stories, but it's got like 4 of the novels and like almost 50 different short stories in it, and for the price I could not beat it, and I've always wanted to read Sherlock Holmes novels, so I couldn't pass it up. Then I saw The Host for like $3 or $4 by Stephanie Meyer. Now, I really want to try and get through this book again. The first time I tried to get through it was on audiobook, and I just didn't like it. I'm not gonna lie, I just didn't like it. I don't know if it was like the story was actually slow or if it just seemed slow in my head, because I didn't really like the reader. I thought the reader was a little bit boring. I thought, I didn't really think that she seemed the right age for the character. Like, it really throws me off when I'm listening to audiobooks and you can clearly tell that there's like an older woman's voice that's narrating for a teenage character, and that throws me off every time, and I can't get into it because it just shatters the believability. So I decided for $3-4 in hardcover, I might as well just pick it up and hopefully try and get back to this book, because I really do want to get through it. I really do want to like it. I loved the movie and I want to give this one another chance. So this book I picked up from a used bookstore, and that is A Great and Terrible Beauty by Libba Bray. I've heard really good things about this series. I've been wanting to read this for a really long time. I don't know why I haven't read this yet. I think I'm just waiting till I'm kind of in the mood for what this book is about. But I loved The Diviners. I absolutely adored The Diviners. I just thought it was absolutely amazing. So I really want to read more Libba Bray, because I was just, if you haven't read The Diviners, go check out The Diviners. I've talked about the book a billion times. Just go read it. Now, I don't know a lot about this book. From what I understand, it is a historical fiction, like maybe from the 19th century, something like that. But it is a historical fiction, and I think the main character ends up at a boarding school, and I think the boarding school is like for witches or something. I'm not entirely sure what it's about. I think it's something like that, but still it seems really interesting, and I am really excited to read this. Another book I got at this used bookstore was The Dust of 100 Dogs by A.S. King. Now, I have not read anything by A.S. King. Nothing. So I decided when I saw this, it was a really good price, that I'll just go ahead and pick it up and give it a try, because it seems ridiculous on BookTube for you not to have read A.S. King. So I'm trying to break that. And plus, when I bought this, I was really in the mood for like a pirate type book, and here this was staring me in the face, so I thought, why don't I kill two birds with one stone? And I haven't read this yet, even though I've gotten out of that pirate mood, so that's kind of ridiculous. But I still want to read it. This is going to be in my like near future. So basically this is about a girl. She's a pirate, very successful pirate, way back when, but she decides she wants to get out of the game. She's got the love of her life and she's ready to get out. But she just wants to get her buried treasure first. She wants to go get the treasure that she had hidden. However, before she gets a chance to do that, somebody curses her with the dust of 100 dogs, which basically means she has to live the life of 100 dogs before she can become human again. And that's where the story picks up, that she becomes human and she wants to go still find that treasure she hid, you know, hundreds of years before. So I think this is going to be really interesting. I'm really excited, and actually now that I'm talking about it, it might be one of my next couple books. I don't know, I really want to read this. So this next one I just ordered off Amazon. It is Gregor the Overlander. Now, I'd never heard of this book. Obviously, I know who Suzanne Collins is, but I'd never heard of this series. But I was talking to one of my really good friends, and she was talking about this series and how she used to love the series, and she'd asked me if I had ever read it, and I was like, I've never even heard of it. So I decided to look it up on Amazon, and originally I was just going to add it to my wish list, but then it was there for like $4, so I just decided to go ahead and buy it for $4 because, well, $4. But I mean, it sounds really cool. I mean, it sounds a little maybe like creepy Alice in Wonderland-y, because I think he falls through some kind of hole, and then it gets introduced to this whole other world, and then he's part of some prophecy, something like that. I don't know, but it sounds really cool. So I am really excited about reading this, and it's not very long, so I think I'm pretty sure that I'll just brush through it. This I got off a book depository, and it is The Great Gatsby. Now, I already own The Great Gatsby. I've read that book so many times, it's ridiculous. But I saw this edition of it, and I thought the cover was completely gorgeous. Like, I am obsessed with this cover, and for being, what, $5, I had to get it. Like, this, I love this cover so much. Now, this next book, I'm aware that I hauled in my last video, but I actually bought it again. That is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. Now, the reason that I bought it a second time, which you'll see my first version here, is because I'm a complete and total idiot, and while I was reading this book, which I just finished and I absolutely loved it, but I'll talk about that in a second, I spilled something on it, and I was horrified. I was horrified because I treat my books like gold, and I couldn't believe that I let this happen, and I automatically freaked out and had to go order a new one because there was just no way I was going to be able to live with myself. So I went ahead and ordered a new one, and honestly, now that it's dried, it's really okay. But I'd already ordered this one, and, you know, so I decided I was just going to go ahead and give that one to my friend since it's in fine condition, and I just overreacted a little bit. But honestly, I'm still glad that I ordered the new one because I think it still would have bothered me. You know, the pages are just a little bit, they're not like too stained or anything, but they are kind of warped, and I was just going to have like this bad connection with this book, so I am really glad that I replaced it so that it wasn't going to drive me crazy, and now my friend gets a new book out of it, so it works out for everybody. But yeah, I actually just finished this book yesterday, the day before. I think it was finished just like 2 days ago, and I really, really liked it. I hadn't read any Rainbow Rowell before, even though I know she's just gushed about on BookTube, but this was super cute. Like, I really liked Kath. I wasn't sure if I was going to because I kept hearing that Kath was just so stubborn, and honestly, I liked Ren a lot less. I was not a big Ren fan. I liked her in the end, But throughout most of this book, I really wasn't a big fan of Ren. I just found her rude and kind of mean and like unnecessarily hard on her sister just because she had her own issues going on. I don't know. But this was so super cute. Definitely made me nostalgic for college dorm life. It definitely made me miss it. And it just, I don't know, this was really, really good. Definitely character driven, but really good. Off of Book Outlet, I went ahead and bought The Girl Nightmares by Kendar Blake. I own the first book, Anna Dressed in Blood. I read it. I liked it. I don't think I loved it as much as everybody else did, but I did like it. And I really was interested in reading Girl of Nightmares just because I want to finish the duology. However, I just wasn't really in a rush to buy it, so when I saw it for a really good price off of Book Outlet, I just decided to pick it up. So eventually I'll get around to reading this, and I'm hoping that I like it a little bit more than the last book, considering that action really picked up at the end of the last book, and that's kind of what redeemed it for me. So I'm hoping that this is going to pick up from that point. This next one was actually a gift, and I love it so much. My dad got it for me when he and my mom were out at this used bookstore, like, I don't know, a couple hours away, and yeah, and my dad, like, just decided he was gonna go ahead and buy it for me, and I thought it was just, like, I don't know, it was just like being thought about and like knowing me, because this totally is something that I absolutely love, and it makes me happy when I have parents that know me so well, and they really know me and encourage what I like to do. So he bought me this limited Cambridge edition of the complete works of William Shakespeare, and I just thought it was so cool, and it's literally got everything Shakespeare in here, and I am a die-hard Shakespeare fan. I love Shakespeare, so the fact that they thought about me and got this for me, and it just, like, I don't know, this book is very, very close to my heart. Like, I absolutely love this book. It's just, I'm not going to be weird and hug my books anymore. I'm sorry. I love this book. Okay, the next book I got was If I Stay by Gail Forman. I really, really wanted to get this because I want to read it before the movie comes out, and I know the movie comes out in a few weeks, so I really need to get on it. I started it, but I really wasn't in the mood for this type of book like I thought I was, so I just couldn't get into it. But I really do want to read it because I really do want to read it before the movie comes out, so I've got a deadline. This I picked up at a used bookstore, and this is This Side of Paradise by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Since obviously I love The Great Gatsby, I don't know anybody that doesn't, but I absolutely love The Great Gatsby, and I really, really want to read more of his books because it's ridiculous that I haven't. Now, I don't fully understand what this is about. I don't really remember. It doesn't really summarize it for you, so I'd actually have to go and look it up. Now, I'm pretty sure I haven't hauled this book before. I don't remember hauling it before, but if I have, I'm sorry, but I don't think I have, so. The Diary of Ellen Rombauer, My Life at Rose Red by Joyce Reardon. I read this book a long time ago. I really, really like the miniseries, the Stephen King miniseries, Rose Red. I really, really liked that. This is basically the life of the ghost that haunts Rose Red in the miniseries Rose Red. So this is like pre-Rose Red. This is where it all started, and I absolutely love this book. Now, it's interesting because it's completely fictional, but it's set up like it's real. It's set up like it is a real diary. They even have a pretend professor that acts like she found the book. She is the one responsible for publishing it. You know, it's really interesting. I know when I was younger and I first read it, I was like, oh my god, this is so real, and then I found out that everything was fake, including the author, you know, and then it was just somebody else who got this great idea to make it seem like it was real, which he did a good job. It fooled me. Definitely recommend it to more mature readers. Like, I'm gonna say 16 and up. I think I was younger than 16 when I read it, but you know, so if you think you're mature enough to handle it, okay, but for the most part I'm gonna say 16 and up here because it is a horror book, but besides that there are some more graphic scenes in here from what I remember, so I'm placing a warning label on it. I also picked up The Last Song by Nicholas Sparks. Now, one of my best friends adores this book. She absolutely adores this book. And she's been on me to read this book for I don't know how long, like definitely a few years now. And I liked the movie well enough. I mean, I don't know. And I'd never read any Nicholas Sparks. I didn't really think I was going to be much of a Nicholas Sparks person. And I will tell you that this book was actually written after the movie. Like, he wrote the movie first and then he wrote this book. But, you know, it's a book, so it's going to be a little bit better. He's able to go into more detail, more background, so there's definitely things in here that did not happen in the movie. That being said, even though I knew how it was going to end, I still cried like a baby, and I don't cry very easily during books. I really don't. And this one, like, I didn't even feel the tears coming on. I just kind of noticed partway through that I had these tears running down my face, and I was like, this book, I loved it. It broke my heart. This book broke my heart. I don't know if I'm going to forgive my friend for putting this book in my life, because it took my heart out and it stomped on it. That's what happened. Another book I picked up was The 10th Circle by Jodi Picoult, and this was recommended to me by one of my coworkers. She talked about this book to me several times, kept telling me I should read it. She also recommended 19 Minutes, but I've not picked that book up yet. But I saw this sitting on the shelf. It was a really good price, so I picked it up. I have yet to read it, but I do want to read it, and I think I actually saw the Lifetime movie of this. I didn't realize it when I bought it at the time. It wasn't until I was like reading what it was about later that I realized that they did a Lifetime movie adaptation of this, and I remember seeing it a few years ago. But I'm still very interested in the book. I'm sure it's probably much better than the movie was. And yeah, I've never read any Jodi Picoult. I know that people love My Sister's Keeper, so I'm very interested in reading this. Alright, the next couple of books I got are Unravel Me by Tara Mafi and Ignite Me. I also have the two novellas, like Unite Me, so it's got Destroy Me and, oh, I forgot what the other one's called, but the Adam novella too. So it's got the two novellas in a bind-up, but I don't have that with me to show you because I actually lent it to my mom, who I got hooked on this series. So I lent the novellas to her, so she has them right now. But I'll just like put a picture in here somewhere. But yeah, I bought these two books. I loved Shatter Me. I read Warner's novella Destroy Me, which totally put me on Team Warner. Like, I wasn't really a big Warner fan, but that novella changed everything for me. I still really want to get around to reading these. I just haven't really been in the mood. I was right after I read Shatter Me, and then I waited to buy these, so now I'm like not in the mood for them. But I still really do want to finish this series. I really liked the first book, and I am curious in seeing how it all ends. And finally, the last two. I have The Iron King by Julie Kagawa and The Iron Daughter by Julie Kagawa. I picked these up because my friend had let me Tithe by Holly Black, and that was one of those books that it took me a couple different times to read it because I wasn't really a big fan of like the first 50 pages, and I couldn't really get into it, but then I had tried picking it back up again and ended up loving the rest of it. I'd never really read any fairy books, or particularly, I read fantasy books, but not super high fantasy unless we're talking Harry Potter, and that's because Harry Potter's amazing. But I'd never read a lot of super high fantasy books, so, and that's kind of what I think when I think of fairies. Plus, I really had this Tinkerbell image in my head, and it wasn't until Tithe that I realized that fairies are not Tinkerbell. Fairies are mean, and they are badass. Like, fairies are badass. Like, I did not know that fairies could be so awesome. I really had no clue. I was just so shut off to the whole idea. So when I finished that book, and my friend's been dragging her feet in letting me borrow the other two, so I really, really wanted to get a book that had to do with fairies because I was in a huge fairy mood. I really, really wanted to read a fairy book. And of course, I decided to pick up The Iron King because that's what everybody talks about when they talk about fairy books. They talk about this series. And honestly, I really liked this book. I think I probably gave it, I want to say maybe 4 stars on Goodreads. I don't remember. But I really liked this book. Basically, Megan, her father disappeared when she was as a kid, and now she lives with her brother, her mom, and her stepdad. And one day, you know, and she has her best friend, and one day she comes home from school and her brother has been kidnapped and swapped out for a changeling. So the changeling attacks her mother, and it turns out that her best friend is a fairy, and she has to go into I think it's the Never Never. I want to say it's the Never Never is what they call the fairyland. So she has to go into this fairyland to find her brother, and you know, and then she discovers things about herself and her connections to the Seelie Court and the Unseelie Court, and it's really, really good. It's really interesting. There are a few parts in here that kind of lag a little bit. I feel like they're a little bit slow, but for the most part, I really liked it. And I actually had my mom read these too, and now she's hooked on them because I just couldn't stop talking about it, and I'm like, you need to read these. Somebody needs to read these. So I really liked it, so I picked up The Iron Daughter, which I started reading and then I stopped because I got busy, and then I just haven't gotten around to picking it back up. But I'm sure that I'm going to love it. I have confidence in the series that I'm going to enjoy this one. And once I get through this one, I plan on picking up the other two books in this series, and then maybe I'll make my way to the spin-off series. But no, like, I don't know. I feel like these books did a good job of really opening me up to more high fantasy books, so I think I'm going to be more open to those types of books in the future. So that is all for this book haul. Thank you for hanging in there with me. So I will definitely be getting more videos out to you guys soon. Make sure you add me on Twitter, add me on Goodreads. I'm actually getting with the times, and I will post my Instagram down there too. I love you guys. Thank you for hanging in there with me, and I will talk to you guys later.